Today we're at the Salvation Army Housing Association, known as SAHA, and we're going to be talking to Paul Hodgkinson about strategy. Now, strategy in L&D, do we do it well? Do we even get involved in it? If we're still on that journey from transactional shopkeeper, as Andrew Jacobs calls it, to consultative learning and development, perhaps it doesn't feel relevant to us. But certainly in the third sector, it's something that's very relevant. When you're thinking about how you're going to get your funding and proving the value of learning and development, strategy can be very important. So Paul, what I'm really keen to talk to you about then is strategy. In the third sector, it's as important as it is in the corporate sector.
Yes.
And of course, people get scared of it.
Yeah, they do.
Can you talk us through, how have you done things?
Yeah. For me, it's that point about being scared. So don't get scared by the word strategy. So for me, it's about understanding what does it mean for where you are now. So there's a piece around, you can do it in 8 weeks, which is what I did here.
That's pretty quick.
It is very quick.
How did you do that?
Yeah, for me it's about letting people know who you are as quick as possible, getting to those people that make the decisions.
So what did that look like? Coffee?
Yeah, so coffee and chat.
No,
absolutely, a bit of everything. So definitely grab them for coffee, pop into their office, catch them in the corridor.
And what are you talking about there? Are you talking about what they're doing every day?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what you do need to do is be clear on what it is you're doing, being able to describe something in a simple sentence, because there's nothing worse than getting into a lift and rabbling on and then that person walking out and just going, what was that about?
Yeah.
So being able to sort of distill everything you do into a couple of sentences, I think that's useful. Being confident, saying it often and to many different people, because then I think you pick up the language of the business, which is really important. I think it's getting to understand, it's a bit of the feel of the business as well, because every office has got a different vibe, and trying to get under the skin of that quite quickly as well. Being approachable, I think that's useful. So when people come up to your desk, or if you're wandering around, it's not, you're some sort of scary figure looking at this strategy thing, because people.
So they know you the person.
Yeah. So to make sure that people know you visually or around the office, that you're sharing your stuff online or however you do it in your business area. I think that just starts to, chip away at, I suppose the untouchability of it, and getting away from that strategy thing. It's just, yeah.
Okay, so there's loads of really practical examples there. This whole piece is always about practical stuff that people can do.
Yeah.
So you've got this this whole sense of having a conversation with people, really understanding the organisation that you're working within and what they're trying to achieve, and then you come up with your L&D strategy. Do you want to just talk us through? So what is, SAHA's strategy?
Yeah, I mean, for me the most important thing was the vision. We need to have a direction of travel. People need to galvanise around something.
Is that an L&D vision, or is that an organisational vision?
Both, actually. So
sometimes they can get a little bit.
Yeah, they can get a bit muddy, can't they? So absolutely, you need to be respectful and aligned to the business strategy. So that was already in place. That wasn't going to change. But also then it was picking up on all the other data that was telling us that learning was something that needs to be explored and developed. So we used things like the engagement data, we had performance data, we had a run of focus groups, so I had a whole cross-functional group of business.
So that data piece, just give me a little bit more on that, because so many organisations are scared of the data. L&D doesn't get involved in the data, and if they are getting involved in data, they're getting involved in input data. How many people were there? How many times did we run it? But were you looking more at output, or even better outcome data?
For me, it's where we wanted to be.
Okay,
yeah,
so it's a journey for you as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So we need to be absolutely clear, what do we want to see from this team, and what's the business want from us in a year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time. It's about everything we do now has to have an impact in the future. So it's going in with that mindset, as opposed to, what does your level 1 feedback form look like? That's useful, but is it going to tell you what 5 years' time looks like? So that it's looking at all that data, and then it was just about wordsmithing potential examples of what a vision looked like, and then stick it under the nose of people that matter, so that's those frontline staffs in our service areas, or people here in head office as well, and just going, actually, does that mean something to you? Is it resonating? Do you believe it? Because
interesting. So you were actually testing the data that you had.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this data was then feeding into the strategy,
Yes.
and the whole thing just gets a lot better.
Yeah, because if you don't use the people around you, then you become that department that sits just off to the side of the business. We've got to be a part of the business.
Totally and utterly agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I know that we talked about off camera was around the priorities.
Yes.
And that's one of the tricky things, isn't it? It's all well and good having a strategy, but how do you make that strategy come alive in real terms? How did you prioritise? How did you know what to do first? What were your quick wins?
Yeah, the quick wins were, who were the key audiences that needed attention? And it became very clear very quickly that our manager population, particularly our people managers, needed support now. So instead of waiting for 6 or 12 months time for some lovely polished program, it was just actually, what do they need right now, what can we give them? So it was things like we could give them a whole bunch of content that we could push through online, through videos and job aids and stuff like that.
Exciting. This is the third sector, and everyone's assumption is the third sector doesn't, they're just the voluntary people, what do they know? But you're doing really fantastic work.
Yeah, and also asking them, because what came out of it is obviously we've used other vendors out there before, so why can't we just get them in for a lunch and learn, for a coffee and chat, get a group of I'm really into action learning, so getting a group of managers around the table and let's talk about people management, let's talk about a particular case study or what's going on, using live data. Obviously you can anonymise it and talk through it that way, but it's the way to generate interest, because if you've not got a hook, people just go, oh, it's another L&D bod doing stuff, and stuff doesn't matter sometimes, does it?
Well, it sounds like you are doing just such great stuff. I'm really glad that you shared your story with us on Learning Now TV. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And I want to keep in touch. I want to hear how it
Absolutely.
pans
I'll
out.
Tell you about the next stage.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
So come back next time when we'll continue this series sponsored by the Charity Learning Consortium, talking about things that are happening in the third sector that we can do in our corporate L&D lives. Really great stuff is going on there, and it's really exciting to be part of this series.